welcome to the data channel. And today in this video we will be discussing about data deletion versus data purging. So there is a difference between the deleting the data and purging the data, and what are the different cases when you have to delete the data and when you have to purge the data. So what are the implications of deleting versus purging? So those aspects we'll be discussing in this video. Before proceeding, if you are new to this channel, we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notification. So let's get started. First of all, data deletion. So data deletion is nothing but it's a process of removing data from the active system or application. Okay, so this is very important, right? So what we say here is we are removing the data and from the active system or application. That doesn't mean the data is completely gone. Okay, because so you might have a system. So system can be an application or any database or anything which is active system, might be, it might be database or application, right? So let's consider there is a database. Okay, and in that database there is a table. So once you delete this table, okay, there's a table called table 1, so it will be deleted from the, so this table is part of the database, right? And it will be deleted from the active database, and it will be temporarily stored for some certain retention period in some other secondary storage system. So that means the deleted data is somewhere stored as a copy of it for some time, because it is giving option to recover it. Okay, so however, the data which often is data is often not permanently erased. So it's not permanently erased, right? It is stored somewhere in the disk. So and you can recover it until it is overwritten. That means there is certain retention period. So this whenever it is writing into secondary storage, so there might be a retention period of 30 days or 60 days, or there might be a case where, so this is ultimately everything is in the disk or a memory, right? So because it is of already deleted data, so if there is no space or any other data can come and rewrite on can utilize this space which is available, because it is already deleted data, right? So it can be overwritten in the disk. Okay, we are talking about physical overwriting here. Okay, so in the disk itself. So the here it's just like deleting a file from your system, like, or a laptop, right? You delete an image, you delete a text file, you delete a word file. Okay, so once you delete, what happens is it is not completely gone from your laptop or system. It might be in the recycle bin. Okay, so that is where it is a temporarily it is stored until you go and delete that directly from the recycle bin, or recycle bin itself has a retention period of, you can set a retention period of recycle bin for 30 days or 60 days, etc., right? So that is the concept of data deletion. Okay, so data deletion is nothing but it is not uh, permanently deleted. Okay, it is actually stored in disk somewhere, which can be retrieved if opportunity is there, and if you are lucky enough the data is not um, overwritten, or it has not crossed the retention period. Yeah, so now let's see about data purging. So there is a difference between data deletion and purging. Okay, so purging is a process of permanently erasing the data. Okay, and permanently in the sense physically there will be no trace of this data in the disk. Okay, suppose like you have a disk, right? And in this disk, so like some this part of the disk you have written some file 1. Okay, so this file 1, once it is deleted, so it might move to the some other part of the disk here, and it might say file 1 uh, deleted, deleted file 1, or the file 1 deleted. So that copy will be still stored if you're deleting. But purging, once you purge this F1, so it is permanently gone. So there is no second copy of it. Okay, so it is nowhere in the disk. So you cannot recover it. So that is where it is quite risky operation, because it cannot be recovered. It's like shift delete, right? So you are deleting it from your system, and also you are going to recycle bin and deleting it from there also. So then data is permanently gone. Okay, So this process is usually done to comply with security and legal obligation or storage optimization requirements. Um, okay, so let's take example of you are working in an organization where the data is generating uh, every day or every hour, and so that is a financial data. Maybe it's a bank or any kind of a financial data you are getting, right? So in that case, it quite makes sense to kind of delete that, like not delete, the purge the data on a regular basis, so it can remain inaccessible to the different employees or different users who have access to that systems. So that is to comply with the security reasons, okay, and also the legal reason. Okay. So apart from that, there is a technical reason also, that is to optimize the storage, because so if you don't have both the copies, you save a lot of space here, right? Immediately you are saving a lot of space. So even though this file might be of 1 GB, okay, and once you delete that file, it can become 700 MB. So even in that case, you are actually utilizing at least 700 MB, right? So in case of deletion, but in case of purging, if you delete 1 GB file, you are saving 1 GB. That means you are claiming 1 GB of data. So that is an immediate claim you can do. So if you are purging the data, okay. So that's the key difference in terms of the definition. If you see, deletion is not a permanent deletion of the data, but it will be stored somewhere and it can be retrieved if the data is not permanently overwritten by any other data, and it is well within the recovery period or retention period, right? But purging, it is completely erasing the traces of the data from the disk itself. Okay. So now let's understand the purpose. Okay. The purpose of removing deletion of the data is to remove the data from the active systems, but it still exists in the system. Like so, that's what we see. But instead, in case of purging, so it completely erases the data and it goes beyond the recovery. And what use case we will use, right? When we want to free up the space, removing redundant data and making file inaccessible to users. Okay, so you want to perform the deletion operation. Okay, so there might be some duplicate data, and there is data which is not required, and data you want to delete the data so it will not be accessible to the users. Okay, you delete the table, delete the record from the table, so that it will not be accessible for the users when they are accessing using that particular application which is connected to the database. That doesn't mean the data is not there. Data might still be there in the secondary systems. So recoverability is still possible. So and can restore using some recovery tools. Okay, so that's still possible. Like if you delete the database, or if you delete a table in the database, you can still recover it with the help of the experts in that recovery area, or using some certain tools. Okay, that can help you with the recovery. Okay. And here the use case of purging is, take an example of securely erasing sensitive data. As I said, it might be financial data, or it might be some compliant data with respect to data privacy laws. And you don't want like you if you just delete the data, it can still be at a risk because it is stored somewhere in the disk, and somewhere somehow like internal user or external hacker or external intruder can still enter into system and can try to retrieve the data if you're just deleting it. So we don't want that to happen, so we purge the data in that use case, right? And what about recoverability? So it is not possible, so data is completely destroyed here. Okay, so that is why you cannot recover the data. It is complete deletion from the physical system. Coming to storage and retention, right? So what happens here is that the data remains in the system, but it is marked as deleted. And so in case of data purging, it permanently removed from all systems. And retention period can persist until it is overwritten. Okay, here there is no concept of retention period because it is immediate removal. And data modification, here deleted files may still exist in logs or backups. Okay, but here there is no data modification possible, so it is not applicable and data is completely vanished. And what about the cost and performance consideration? So definitely when it comes to performance, both will certainly help in the performance because you are saving some spaces, whether you delete the data, whether you purge the data. Okay. Uh, with respect to performance. Okay. So here, if you are looking for a high performance and the data is not so important for you, uh, like in that case, you can go for purging because it completely climbs the restore data. So if the 1 GB of file so there is a 1 GB of file, if you are purging the data, it is completely gone and you are saving directly 1 GB of data. But in case of data deletion, if you are deleting 1 GB of data, it might be stored in a compressed format as 700 MB of data, right, in the disk. So essentially you are saying maybe 300, 400 MB, right? So that is the performance. So like since you are saving more data here in terms of data purging, so it can be of a good choice when you are kind of want better performance. So data deletion also give you the good performance, but not compared to data purging because of the still the data might be present in the system and it might little bit slow down the performance. Okay. And when it so what is the cost of deleting the data? There is no cost of deleting the data. Okay, so you can just go and delete the data, but when you come to purging, so it frees up the data, improving the cost and efficiency. Uh, but there is a cost when you want to recover the data. So deletion of the data is doesn't require any cost, but if you want to kind of bring the data back, so you need to pay a lot to kind of a recovery systems, recovery tools. Okay, but in case of data purging, so that is not applicable itself because you cannot recover the data. And what about compliance and security? So data deletion may not fully meet the security compliance like HIPAA, GDPR, etc. Okay, because that is not the data deletion is meant for. Data deletion is basically making the data inaccessible to the user and to save the some spaces. Okay, but the primary reason for data deletion is not to comply with the security reasons, but however, so if you are looking for abiding by the law with respect to the compliance and with respect to GDPR, HIPAA, etc., so then you need to choose the proper data purging techniques. So and purge the data so that it completely remains inaccessible, so that you can be compliant with the regulatory systems. Okay, regulatory compliance controls and systems. Yeah, and there is a high data recovery risk here. And in terms of data purging, there is very high or to the impossible data recovery disk because it's already purged, so it can go till impossible of recovering any disk. But even in case of data retention, recovering deleted data also is time consuming and it is a risk. Ultimately, it might cause some financial losses if there is no backup of the data is kept. Okay, and there is a low to moderate security level because here it can the data can still get compromised. Okay, because you are deleting a data and it still remains accessible for anyone who has having skills or tools or who is having that capability of restoring the data or accessing the system via external attacks. Okay, so there is a possibility of low to moderate security breaches. But in terms of data purging, so there is a high security level because data will be completely vanished from the disk itself. So even though you enter into the system, any attacker enter into the system, so he'll not be able to trace that back. So that is the advantage of data purging. Yeah. So like finally we'll see the use cases. Like when you say data deletion, user simply goes and delete the files from a personal computer, and that does not empty the recycle bin that we already discussed. You can still go to recycle bin and claim that file or restore that file, right? And a company removes an inactive customer account but retains their data for potential future use. A employee or a customer may leave the organization, but they will just delete the data or inactive that particular customer record. So, but they are not completely deleting or they are not completely purging the data because it might need for a future use. Okay, and the database marks record as deleted. Okay, without physically removing. So from the database perspective, it is logically deleted, but physically it is present and it can be restored. Okay, so this is one of the case, right? And purging is interesting case where like there might be financial institute like banking systems or ERP systems where securely they want to purge the customer transaction data after the legal requirement retention period ends. Okay, and a company follows GDPR compliance regulatory rules and right to be forgotten. Say for example, this is a part of GDPR by permanently purging the user's personal data. So this is like a PI data, right? Personal information. And there's other case you can think of where business wipes old employee data to free up spaces and comply with the internal data retention policies. Even in that case, you can go for data purging. So what are the different methods and techniques to do a data deletion and purging? So data deletion looks quite simple, right? So you can just move the data to a, you can just delete the data, like right click delete or just a key delete, that you can delete the data from a system or application, right? Or you can drop a table, delete a table. Okay, so that completely that is a concept of deletion. Okay, but in terms and soft delete in database, so you can also choose like deleting the soft delete in the database, like where you flag the data as deleted, but data still remains. Like you can truncate the table or delete the table or drop the table. Okay, or there might be a case where we do a shift delete. Okay, so removes the file reference but does not erase the data from the disk. Okay, so even these are the very simple day-to-day activities. Okay, but when it comes to purging is a little bit complicated. So how do you purge the data? Because purging should ensure the data is completely gone from the disk. Okay, so say for example there is a secure wipes. This is a concept of overwrite methods like DoD 522.22 22M, Gutman, etc. So these are the methods basically which overwrites the data multiple times to prevent the recovery. It's kind of a algorithm or it kind of a program or a code which runs in the system via tool or via script. So it will completely try to rewrite the data multiple times so that there is no trace of the data original and it remains inaccessible or intraceable. So other technique is crypto shredding, so where encryption keys are destroyed, making encryption and encrypted data inaccessible. So here potentially we are doing is data might still remains in bits like zeros and ones, but the encryption key will be completely destroyed. Okay, to kind of encrypt that zeros and ones to actual information. So you just remove that key from the system permanently without a trace available. So even though the zeros and ones available in the disk, so it will be just zeros and ones. Okay, and it will not be uh, accessible for anyone. So next is physical destruction. So here the hard drives, SSDs, and storage devices are physically destroyed. Okay, to prevent any data retrieval. So here you can basically physically destruct by burning them or maybe kind of damaging them in such a way that it cannot be restored, and physically you are damaging that uh, hardware itself, so that remains inaccessible. Okay. So it again, we can choose like based on what is the compliance, what is the cost implications, what is the purpose of doing any, and like you can choose any of this. Okay. So finally concluding, so while deletion is simply removes the data from the active systems, right? But it keeps it data recoverable. But by purging ensures the complete data is gone and it is irreversible. Okay. So organizations must carefully choose between these approaches based on security needs, compliance requirements, and storage optimization goals that they might have. So this is all about this video. So thanks for watching.